Hey guys, welcome to Z World News. Today's topic is going to be about EMP weapons, how China is using them against the Indian conflict that they're having. And the article is from thehill.com, March 22nd, 2021. Apparently, China used some EMP weapons to black out a whole city in India. And why this matters to us? Well, on the previous two videos, I discussed how Russia was using EMP weapons against ships, missiles, electronics. So is that going to be the new type of warfare that if an actual World War III scenario actually happens, is that what we should be expecting? An EMP that's going to knock out all electronics for everybody. So I'm just going to go and read the article, and then of course you make up your own mind on what you think about the article. And so let's go on and get started. So it's why the US should care about the China-India blackout war. Okay, the future usually arrives before anyone is ready for it, especially in warfare. China apparently blacked out Mumbai, India recently by cyber attack, credibly threatening that Beijing could plunge all of India into darkness through cyber warfare. Experts warn that national electric grids are a technological Achilles heel. The Mumbai blackout could be one of those Monitor versus Merrimack moments in military history when a revolutionary new way of warfare suddenly becomes recognizable, even to the dullest. New military technologies that can change everything are often laughingly dismissed by establishments that are too busy planning for business as usual. From machine guns at the Somme, 1916, to Panzer divisions in France, 1940, and Japanese carrier aviation at Pearl Harbor in 1941. Nations have learned the hard way. Obsolete thinking prevails until someone gets hammered, usually by an aggressor. The Mumbai cyber blackout, like Russia's cyber blackouts of Ukraine and blackouts in Mexico in 2013, Yemen in 2014, and Pakistan in 2015, caused by terrorist sabotage of electric grids, are a new category of warfare. These blackout wars foreshadow an existential threat that could end our civilization and kill millions of Americans. Why did Beijing black out Mumbai? China and India are fighting over borders in the Himalayas again. Ever since China swallowed Tibet in 1951, Beijing periodically tried to expand at India's expense. But today, China and India are both nuclear armed, so fighting is deliberately restrained to avoid nuclear escalation. Both refrain from a shooting war with modern weapons for control of the high Himalayas. Instead, their combat uses shovels, clubs, and fists. The two nuclear powers fighting on top of the world with Stone Age tactics. China evidently thinks threatening a cyber blackout of India could settle matters without escalation to conventional or nuclear conflict. Protracted blackout of India's electric grid would be catastrophic for its economy, population, and military capabilities. Indian officials are understandably alarmed and now regretting that their national electric grid, power grid, and other critical infrastructures depend so much upon equipment imported from China that likely increases their vulnerability. The military experts in India have renewed calls for the government of Prime Minister Narendra Modi to replace China-made hardware for India's power sector and its critical rail system, reports the New York Times. The newspaper article describes technical details of China's blackout war against China, but conspicuous by its absence is any mention of President Biden's suspension of former President Trump's Executive Order 13920, securing the United States Bolt power system May 1st, 2020, designed to reduce dependency on foreign supplied equipment for the U.S. electric power grid, especially equipment from China. Reportedly, there are some 300 high voltage transformers in the U.S. electric power grid manufactured in China. Moreover, the U.S. national grid depends upon an unknown number of China-supplied control systems called SCADAs probably numbering in the thousands. These China-supplied systems, critically important to the operation of the U.S. electric grid, could have built-in vulnerabilities to cyber bugs, electromagnetic pulse, EMP. China's version of cyber warfare includes attacks by nuclear and non-nuclear EMP weapons. President Biden would be wise to strengthen and reinstate Executive Order 13920. Electricity is foundational to U.S. national security. Critical equipment necessary to the operation of the nation's power grid, which sustains the economy, military, and population, should be made in America. The Biden administration deserves great credit for continuing implementation of the White House Executive Order on coordinating national resilience on electrical magnetic pulse, designed to implement recommendations of the Congressional EMP Commission. One strategy for achieving resilience of electric grid and other critical infrastructures is to require, through national manufacturing standards, that transformers, SCADAs, and other vital equipment incorporate EMP and cyber protection. Most electric equipment is manufactured to be resistant to lightning, a form of natural EMP. Standards could be upgraded to protect against super lightning from EMP weapons. Department of Defense experience over 50 years in manufacturing military equipment with nuclear EMP protection, and the design increases cost only 1 to 6%. President Biden and the new White House cybersecurity czar should compel electric utilities to protect themselves from cyber and EMP attacks. Hundreds of people have died in California wildfires and a Texas ice storm because the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission and North American Electric Reliability Corporation failed to make utilities undertake simple preparedness for severe weather. They cannot be trusted to protect against cyber attack and EMP. Utility lobbyists advocated retaliatory cyber attacks by the U.S. government for deterrence instead of protecting electric grids, but retaliatory cyber warfare cannot substitute for hardening critical infrastructures against cyber and EMP attacks, and is risky. The U.S. is far more vulnerable than its adversaries. Russia and China make frequent cyber attacks on the U.S. because they know we are vulnerable and know they can hit back harder. Moreover, Beijing apparently thinks blacking out India's national electric grid is less escalatory than a shooting war in the Himalayas. In 2020, China's strategists threatened an EMP attack on the U.S. Navy in the South China Sea as one of their less escalatory options. Cyber warfare between nuclear armed powers is not a good idea for either side, and 2021 too easily could become a nuclear version of 1914. The article talked about that ice storm that hit Texas a few months back. I live in Texas, and I was personally hit by that. The lights went out for about 4 straight days. We didn't have electricity. Lucky for me, I did have a generator that helped us out with the heating, but the temperatures really, it was in the freezing temperatures, and a lot of family members weren't as lucky as having a generator, so we invited them over to stay with us during that hard time. But some people died during Texas during that 2-week period that the lights went out. So, and it wasn't a good feeling. So if that does happen, the lights aren't going to come back in 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks like we did. So hopefully it doesn't escalate to that point. Okay, thanks for listening, and like and subscribe. See you in the next episode.